You know, there's a specific sound that a suitcase zipper makes when you know you're never coming back. It's not the sound of packing for vacation. It's tighter. Final. I heard that sound on Christmas Eve, standing in my own living room, while my parents watched me stuff my entire life into one carry-on. My mother didn't cry. My father didn't hug me. He just handed me a one-way ticket to Lagos and said, "You've become a liability. Go find out who you are without our money, because you aren't getting another cent of it." That was 7 years ago. Yesterday, I got a letter from their lawyer demanding I return the inheritance they claim I stole. The irony? They shipped me off with nothing but a suitcase. Now they want the empire I built without them back. This is the story of how my family tried to erase me on the most festive night of the year, and why they are about to learn the most expensive lesson of their lives. To understand the betrayal, you have to understand the setup. I was the problem child. Not because I did drugs or went to jail. My crime was wanting to be an artist. In a family of surgeons and corporate lawyers, that was apparently a capital offense. My father, Dr. Adebayo, built a medical diagnostics empire. My mother, a corporate attorney, managed his contracts. They lived in a gated community where the Christmas lights probably cost more than most people's rent. I was the black sheep, but I was their black sheep. At 22, I had just graduated with a fine arts degree they refused to pay for. I was living in their guest house, working on my portfolio, and trying to get a gallery showing. I was broke, but I was happy. They, however, were embarrassed. My father's colleagues would ask, "What's your son doing?" and he'd mutter, "He's figuring things out." You could see the shame physically weigh on him. But the real snake in the grass wasn't my dad. It was my older brother, Derek. Derek was the golden child. He was a second-year surgical resident, engaged to a woman from a good family. He was the heir apparent to my father's reputation. But Derek hated that I existed. Not because I was a threat to his career, but because I was a reminder that money didn't buy happiness. I was the one my mom would secretly slip art supplies to. I was the one my dad actually laughed with when he'd had a few drinks. Derek saw me as a variable that needed to be removed from the equation. So, he started planting seeds. I didn't know it then, but he'd been working on my parents for months. He told them I was stealing petty cash from the house. I wasn't. He told them I was telling the neighbors that my father's company was failing, a lie. But the thing that broke them? He showed them a fake bank statement. He photoshopped a bank statement showing I had taken out a $50,000 loan in my father's name. It was a forgery so good, it even fooled my mother, the lawyer. When my dad confronted me, I laughed. I thought it was a joke. I said, "Dad, I don't even have a bank account that lets me overdraft by $20. How would I get $50,000? But Derek was standing behind him, shaking his head with this look of pity. He said, "I didn't want to believe it either, Dad. But look. He's ruining your credit. He's ruining us." My father didn't look at me like a son that day. He looked at me like a parasite. That brings us to Christmas Eve. It was supposed to be a party. The whole extended family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted lamb. I was in the corner, talking to my little cousin about her drawings, when my father tapped a spoon against his champagne glass. Silence. My father, the patriarch, stood by the massive Christmas tree. My mother stood beside him, her jaw set like stone. Derek was leaning against the fireplace, smirking. My father cleared his throat and said, "We have an announcement. As many of you know, we have worked tirelessly to build a legacy for this family. But a legacy requires responsibility. And when someone in this family proves they cannot be responsible with the opportunities given to them, they must be pruned." I felt my stomach drop. Everyone was looking at me. He continued, effective immediately, "My son is no longer a beneficiary of this family's resources. He has made choices that endanger our financial security and our reputation. To give him a chance to find his way, he will be leaving tonight to stay with relatives overseas. He is to build his own life without the family name. My mother finally spoke. She walked over to the hall closet and rolled out a single, cheap, hard-shell suitcase. She opened it. It was empty. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Pack your things. The car leaves for the airport in 20 minutes. On Christmas Eve." While the rest of the family ate cake and opened presents, I was escorted upstairs like a prisoner. I could only take what fit in that one suitcase. I left my paintings, my books, my bed. I remember looking out the window as the car pulled away. I could see the glow of the party through the frosted windows. They had already started laughing again. I landed in Nigeria with $200 in my pocket, a suitcase, and a phone that my father had remotely disconnected from the family plan halfway over the Atlantic. I was homeless for 3 days. But here's the thing about being stripped of everything. You find out what you're actually made of. And I found out I was made of spite and a hell of a lot of talent. I slept on a cousin's couch for a month. I got a job as a dishwasher. But at night, I painted. I painted the rage. I painted the humiliation. I painted the Christmas tree in my memory, but I painted it on fire. I started posting my work on Instagram. Just sketches at first. Then digital art. Then a gallery owner in Lagos saw my stuff. She gave me a wall in a group show. I sold 3 pieces that night. I cried in the bathroom after. That was the beginning. Over 7 years, I built a name. Not my father's name. My own. I became a contemporary artist. My work started selling in London, New York, Paris. I was featured in Vogue. I wasn't just successful, I was relevant. I had finally made it. But here's the twist they didn't see coming. Last year, my father's medical empire collapsed. A malpractice suit, mismanagement, and Derek's gambling debts, which my dad quietly paid off, drained the foundation. They lost the house. They lost the reputation. They lost everything. My mother called me for the first time in 6 years. She was crying. She said, "Your father is sick. We need help. We know you have money now." I helped them. I paid for my father's treatment. I gave them a modest apartment to live in. I was the bigger person. Or so they thought. But yesterday, I got a letter from their lawyer. Derek, in a final act of desperation, had convinced my parents that the family money wasn't truly gone. He told them that I had stolen my inheritance by using the skills they taught me to build my art business. The letter demanded I transfer 40% of my company's equity to them, claiming it was a familial asset. They wanted my inheritance back. The inheritance they threw away with that suitcase. So, here we are. The big reveal. The moment the antagonist realizes the plan failed. I didn't respond with a letter. I responded with a courier package. Inside, there were 3 things. First, a copy of the original forged bank statement that Derek made 7 years ago. I had found the original Photoshop file on an old family computer that Derek was too arrogant to wipe. I had a forensic analyst verify it last year. Second, a statement from the private investigator I hired 6 years ago detailing Derek's gambling habits and the secret accounts he drained from my father's company before the malpractice suit ever happened. And third, a single photograph. It was a picture of me, taken 3 months after they kicked me out. I'm standing in front of a mural I painted in Lagos. I'm wearing a dirty shirt, covered in paint, holding a brush. I'm smiling. On the back of the photo, I wrote, "Dear Mom and Dad, you didn't give me an inheritance. You gave me a suitcase. I turned it into an empire. If you want to contest it, I will see you in court. And I will bring Derek's forgery, his theft, and this photo of the night you threw me away on Christmas Eve." I will let the judge decide who stole from whom. You have 48 hours to drop the claim, or I go public with everything. You chose your heir. Now you live with the consequences. I got a call from my mother 6 hours later. She wasn't crying this time. She was whispering. She told me Derek had fled the country. She told me my father was in shock. She begged me not to destroy what was left of the family name. I told her I wasn't destroying anything. I was just refusing to be pruned anymore. They dropped the claim. I haven't spoken to Derek since. And my parents? They live in that apartment I pay for. I pay for it not out of love, but because I want them to look at the walls every day. They are bare walls. No paintings. No art. No photos. Because they don't get to hang my work on their walls. They lost that right the moment they zipped up that suitcase. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this: never underestimate the person holding the suitcase. They might have nothing in that moment. But if they have dignity and a plan, they are more dangerous than any inheritance. If you're going through your own version of this, where your family thinks they can define your worth, remember my story. Build your empire. And when they come back for it, make sure they know the price of letting you go. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments, would you have paid for their apartment? Or would you have let them keep the empty walls?